Forgiveness, challenging task, right? Especially if someone's not even sorry. How are we going to do that? That's today at Live on Purpose TV. As a psychologist, I've learned so much from my clientele. In fact, I would venture to say that I've learned more from my clients than I ever learned in graduate school. And those of you who have been in my seat can probably understand what I'm talking about from that. I had a client named Karen. Karen came to see me early on. I think I had only been out of graduate school for maybe 6 months when she came to see me for some assistance. I was doing therapy at the time, and she had a story that was very compelling to me and disturbing in a lot of ways too, because sometimes people abuse us or mistreat us. This had happened with Karen. As a young girl, not to be too graphic about all of the details, but she was severely abused from about the age of 8 till she was about 16 by her stepfather. There's a lot of things I hate about abuse, and you could get me going on that, but I just wanted to set up the context for you. When Karen came to see me, she was in her mid-30s. She was about 150 pounds overweight. This is extra weight, folks, okay? So she was very large, struggling with some health issues because of her obesity, having all kinds of depression and anxiety, and her life was just a mess, quite shortly and frankly. She had a daughter who was about 8 years old, was not married. So picture this, single mom who's dealing with all of these heavy life issues and has come to me for some therapy. As we were getting into the meat of the therapy with Karen, there came a time in her therapy when I brought up a topic that I commonly bring up. I didn't have as much experience then, but I have learned that this is a powerful concept that helps us to move past certain things that have happened in our lives. Forgiveness. When I brought this up, she came unglued. She almost came out of her chair as she said, "Forgiveness? He doesn't deserve forgiveness." He never even said that he was sorry. He never admitted that it happened, meaning her stepfather who had abused her for 8 years. How can I forgive him? That was her question. Okay, so let's take a look at this for just a minute. To give you a little more context about her stepfather, he had passed away 10 years ago when she was in her 20s. He was not even around anymore. And she's refusing to forgive him because he had never apologized. He had never admitted that it was wrong what had happened, or even that it even happened. Complete denial. See the problem? How long is Karen willing to wait for him to be repentant before she forgives him? Do you see the problem? I don't think it's going to happen. And what happens to him when she forgives? He's dead, okay? And I don't know what you believe about the afterlife or whatever it is, but let's just assume that her forgiveness of him has very little impact on him. Are you okay with that? So, how do we forgive someone who's not sorry, who hasn't apologized? That's a pretty good question. What if we were to really understand what forgiveness is and what it isn't? And maybe we'll start with what it isn't. I've actually jotted down a few things here. Myths of forgiveness. So track this for a minute. It is a myth that forgiveness is the act of granting or bestowing something upon someone. That's a myth. See, sometimes we think of forgiveness that way. I'm giving them forgiveness. This is a gift that I'm giving to them. No, that's a myth. You're not giving them anyone. Go back to Karen and her stepfather. What's she giving him? Nothing. He's dead. So let's get that myth out of the way first. Here's another myth. Forgiveness requires that a person be sorry or penitent or apologetic. Myth. Her stepfather's not going to be any of those things, is he? So we got to get rid of that myth too. It's not about their level of penitence. Here's another myth. Forgiveness pardons or lets the person off for their wrongdoings. As if you have that kind of authority. That is a myth as well. Forgiveness is not about pardoning someone or saying that what happened was okay. In fact, that's the next one. Forgiveness means that we agree that what happened was okay. It's okay. You know, we sometimes say that as an act of forgiveness. That's a myth too. It doesn't mean that it's okay. There is nothing that's okay about her stepfather abusing her for 8 years. You cannot sell that to me. It's not okay. So forgiveness is not saying that it was okay. Now there's other myths, but I wanted to start us out with those because if we get clear about what forgiveness is not, then maybe we can get a little clearer on what it is. Now let's take a look at that for a minute. I've written down a few of these as well. What if forgiveness is a healing gift that we give to ourselves? Think about Karen for a minute. If she were to forgive, probably wouldn't have any effect at all on her stepfather. Probably would have a huge effect on her. And consider this for a minute. She's got a daughter. How is that going to affect her sweet 8-year-old daughter? So let's get clear about who the gift is for. Whose life gets to change the most. Now, what if that person isn't dead? What if that person is still alive and maybe even in your own home and life still? Okay, your forgiveness might benefit them. Do it anyway. All right, here's the next one. Forgiveness is giving up a demand for a better past. Oh, wow. Think about that for a minute. It's giving up our demand for a better past. That things will have or should have or might have or could have been different. Getting the venom out of our own system. This goes back to an analogy about a snake bite. When a venomous snake bites you, what is the best course of action? I think you have at least two possibilities. One possibility is to get a rock or a club and start looking around for that snake and find it under whatever bush it's under, searching and chasing that snake, and then you beat it with this club or this rock. Okay, what's happening to the venom as you are running around frantically trying to destroy the snake? It's getting pumped into your system. It is going to every cell in your body. What if the other alternative is to get the venom out? Forget about the snake. Get the venom out. That might be a better course of action. That's what we're talking about with forgiveness. One other point that I wanted to mention, then I'm going to give you 4 steps, okay? Releasing ourselves. Forgiveness is releasing ourselves from the judicial role. It's releasing ourselves from the judicial role. You don't get to be the judge. You don't have that authority anyway. But what a relief it would be if you didn't have to be the judge. What if you just let that go? Nice. Now I'm going to give you 4 steps. 4 steps that will allow you to create a nasty grievance that will fester and boil inside of you forever. Okay, let's get clear about what those 4 steps are. Step 1, get hurt. Check, done. That's going to happen anytime you interact with people. Get hurt. Step 2, over-personalize the offense. Make sure you take it personally. Every offense has a personal and an impersonal component. Do you think Karen was abused by her stepfather because of who she was? No, that happened because of who he was. That was his bad choice, not hers. Are we clear about that? But to form a grievance, you have to take it personally. Take it as personally as you can. Step 3, blame someone or something else for how you feel. It's not your fault. Blame them, that nasty evil villain. And step 4, create and retell a victim story. You know, the kind of story where you show up as a pitiful victim of all of those terrible, nasty, horrible things that have happened to you. How does that feel? That's kind of nasty, isn't it? I set that up purely as a contrast so that we can take a look at, okay, what are the 4 steps that we could follow that would bring forgiveness? And I got these originally from Dr. Fred Luskin, who wrote a book called Forgive for Good. Excellent book with some great ideas. 4 steps for forgiveness. Here you go. Step 1, turn your brain on. Now, your brain is always on. What we're talking about is getting the blood flow redirected from the limbic system in your brain back up to the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of logic and problem solving and compassion and empathy and forgiveness. Okay? You got to use the right part of your brain. As long as you're in a fight or flight kind of a mode, you don't have the right kind of chemistry and blood flow happening in your brain to actually support forgiveness. So you're going to do something to calm yourself, like breathing or yoga or meditation. Let's get your brain turned back on because you need it for the next 3 steps. Step number 2, and you might need a coach to help you with this. So be humble enough to hire somebody if you need to. Step number 2 is to reframe the experience in a way that allows you to take it less personally. I already did this for you with Karen when I asked you, is it about who she was or is it about who he was? Do you see? The bad choice is on that abuser's side of the table, not Karen's. So when you get clear about that, notice that it didn't have to be Karen. It could have been anyone. Whoever was there. What kind of kids get abused? It's the kind who are available to an abuser. It's not about the kid. Could have been anybody. Now, when Karen reframed it and saw it as, oh, well, it's not about me. It happened to me, but it's not about me. That allowed her to start to let go of that in a way that was so therapeutic and helpful to her. So we've got step 1 is turn your brain on. Step 2 is reframe. Step 3, responsibility. Take full responsibility for how you feel. You're never wrong about how you feel. If you'll go back to one of the first videos we ever released on this channel about being positive no matter what, you're going to see in that video, you can click to it right up here, you're going to see in that video that you're never wrong about how you feel. How you feel is 100% consistent with the way your mind is processing your experience. What I'm suggesting here is that you take responsibility for how you feel without taking the blame for the abuse. Do you see that? So you realize I'm never wrong about how I feel, but how I feel is consistent with that process we described in the other video. Take full responsibility for how you feel. And then step 4, write a new story. Let's write and share and tell a hero story. I look at someone like Karen and I am so inspired by the resilience of the human spirit, by their ability to deal with or handle even the most difficult, painful situations that could possibly come up in life. You're a hero. And those evil villains who have abused you are only in the story to illuminate that you are in fact a hero. I love this quote from the movie My Giant, starring Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal's character said at one point, without Goliath, David is just some punk kid throwing rocks. Yeah, it's the villain or the giant that illuminates the greatness of the hero. That's your hero story. 4 simple steps. Can you forgive someone if they haven't apologized? Absolutely. In fact, that's probably one of the best times to do it. So you got the steps. Form a grievance or forgiveness. Which one's going to work best for you? Hopefully this video was helpful. I'll see you tomorrow.